Hello. I just realized the shirt doesn't really match my makeup. That's a little better. You can probably tell from the title, but we are here to talk about Lord of the Rings. And before you click off because you don't care, this is going to be a synopsis so that when you complain to your friends that you don't want to watch Lord of the Rings, you will have an informed opinion as to why. I asked you guys on Instagram what you thought of when you hear the words Lord of the Rings. And here are some of the answers. I mean, my education is limited, but it is also abundant. Long ago, 20 rings were made, okay? They're rings of power. They hold power. And they were given to three elves, 7 dwarves, 9 men. And then like one for your guy, Sauron. He actually made it to control the other rings. You could call it the One Ring to rule them all. So Sauron tried to like take over the world basically. And this dude named Isildur, I'm gonna draw him for you. Isildur. So he led this army to stop Sauron from taking over the world because we don't want that guy to be leading. He's not a very good leader. He's kind of mean. He's leading the orcs. They're terrible. We don't like them. So Isildur, luckily, is able to cut Sauron's finger off, which also leads to the ring falling off. So now all of his power is gone and they're like, woo, it's all done. So he goes there with this dude called Elrond. He's definitely a Virgo. He tries to throw it into the fire, but the ring has this power where it controls the holder. Once they're in the mountain, Isildur's like, I don't want to get rid of this guy. He's cute. It's a cute ring. Later on, Isildur gets killed because of greed and all this horrible stuff. It kind of like destroyed his mind. Once he was killed, it kind of fell into this river. Our friend Gollum finds it. We're gonna go back to this place called the Shire. This is the Shire. It's basically Ireland. They basically party all the time. They're just here for a good time, not a long time. They have weird feet. We don't know why Tolkien threw that in. We don't know. In the Shire is Bilbo Baggins, and it is his 111th birthday. Bilbo, he kind of won it from Gollum in like a riddle. It was basically like a rap battle. Gollum lost, and so he had to give Bilbo the ring. This is Bilbo. Look how young he looks. 111? Who said that? Gandalf. Gandalf comes to Bilbo's party, and Bilbo actually puts the ring on to disappear, and everyone is, of course, shocked, right? They're like, what is going on? He just turned invisible, bro. He just disappeared. And Gandalf's like, I know exactly what is going on right now. So Gandalf follows Bilbo into his house, and he's like, Bilbo, I know you have the ring. And Bilbo's like, what are you talking about, dude? And Gandalf is like, do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks. So Bilbo's like, well, fine, whatever. I'm gonna throw it in this envelope. That's where Frodo comes in, our boy Frodo. Oh, that's weird. Frodo looks like Ramona Flowers. Frodo comes in expecting Bilbo to still be there, but of course he's already gone to hang out with the elves for the rest of his life. So Gandalf is like, yo, Frodo, I need you to keep this ring safe. So Frodo does that, and Gandalf leaves, and he has to go do some research on this ring because he's thinking, oh my gosh, this is Sauron's ring. This is the ring of power. It's scary. Gandalf eventually comes back and is like, dude, we gotta go. We gotta, like, take this ring to the elves because they will know what to do. So Frodo, of course, leaves with his best friend, Sam. Samwise Gamgee. He's also Frodo's gardener, but he just happens to hear this conversation. So now he has to go to this place called Bree. He's supposed to meet Gandalf. Unfortunately, Gandalf isn't there. What the heck? And also along the way, they recruit Merry and Pippin. When they get there, Gandalf isn't there, but there's this like kind of sketchy looking guy in the corner, and they're like, who the heck is this dude? That's Strider. So you know how I said that 9 rings were given to the men? So those men ended up being corrupted, and then they turned into these, I guess they're the ring wraiths. That's what we call them. They're also called the Nazgul. There's like 10 names for every single character in this book. Just so you know, that's something you are allowed to complain about, 100%. So Frodo actually gets stabbed by one of these night wraiths on the way to meet the elves. So Frodo wakes up at Rivendell, which is like the town that the elves live in. It's there where Elrond and a bunch of other people from like all the races, so dwarves, elves, men. Gandalf is there now, by the way. It's revealed that Strider is actually the heir to the throne of Gondor, which is kind of a big deal because the current guy who was leading Gondor, not great. He sent his son to like talk about how we're gonna deal with the ring. Strider, now Aragorn. There's also dwarves there. Gimli, son of Glóin, is a dwarf there, and he will eventually join their group to get rid of the ring. So now our entire company, who is now going to Mordor to destroy the ring, consists of Gandalf, Frodo, Sam, Merry and Pippin, who share the same brain cell, Aragorn, oh, there he is, Legolas, the hot elf, Gimli, the dwarf that is in love with the hot elf, and Boromir. This is where we're going, okay? They went from the Shire to Bree, and then they go all the way to Rivendell, which is just by this mountain range, okay? So they make their way into the mountain range, and they were gonna go south. They were gonna go south, but this bad wizard named Saruman sent his, like, bats or birds. They must be birds. They work for the bourgeoisie. Now he knows that they are gonna go down the mountain range. So Gandalf is like, bro, we gotta do something fast. And Gimli, the dwarf, is like, yo, we can go through the mines of Moria. Frodo says, we're out of options, let's go to Moria. So when they get there, because Pippin only has half a brain cell, he ends up knocking over some armor, which causes all these goblins to hear them, and so now they're all being chased by goblins. It's insane. There's also this thing called a Balrog. That's what the Balrog looks like. Gandalf is fighting off the Balrog, and it's so epic. And then Gandalf slams his staff down, and he goes, "You shall not pass!" Which, can we say, iconic, amazing, never been seen before, fantastic, show-stopping. But the Balrog gets him, and he whips Gandalf's leg, and Gandalf falls into Moria. So everyone is crying. Every single person in the scene is crying. They're now like over here, sort of, but they kind of get lost in this forest, and they meet Galadriel, who is an elf witch. Galadriel eventually sends them on their way after she has like this crazy freak out. You don't want to talk about it. It was kind of scary. They eventually get to this like forest area where they actually get attacked by orcs, and Merry and Pippin get kidnapped. But Frodo and Sam make it across the river. So now the whole crew is split up. Gandalf is now dead. Sam and Frodo are together now. Merry and Pippin are together now, but they are being kidnapped. Boromir actually dies in this fight. He gets shot like 3 times by this orc. So we got Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn all together still, trying to find Merry and Pippin because Aragorn knew that Sam and Frodo were leaving. Frodo and Sam are going through this like marshland kind of situation. It's gross, we don't like it, but they can't figure out how to get out of it. So this fun guy who has been following them the entire time has offered to guide them out of this terrible area. I actually already have a drawing, so I'm just gonna show you that one. I don't know if you guys are ready for this. I did this in grade 11. That's my boy. Gollum leads them out, but Sam does not trust Gollum, and for good reason. Look how creepy he is. They eventually get to this pile of bodies where they thought that Merry and Pippin died, but Aragorn figured out that they actually got away, and they ended up going to Fangorn Forest. Saruman. They actually found out in the last book that Saruman isn't a good guy anymore. He actually turned on Gandalf, and now he's working for Sauron, which is confusing as hell. You can also 100% complain about that. That is stupid. Why did he name them that? So, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas follow the Hobbit trail into Fangorn Forest. There, they meet this white wizard. And it's Gandalf! It's Gandalf the White! Gandalf the White. Gandalf 2.0. Gandalf eventually leads Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas to this place called Rohan, where the king, he's actually kind of like sick. He looks disgusted. But it's because his mind is being taken over by Sauron, because one of Sauron's workers is actually working for the king and like spitting poison into his ear and like hypnotizing him basically. Gandalf comes in. This is the best scene, honestly. Gandalf comes in and he's like, "You're not gonna take me away from my walking stick." And they're like, "Well, he's old. We'll let him pass." Sis! Okay, so he comes in with that staff and he just obliterates this stinky, nasty dude who's been spitting in the king's ear. And so that guy's kicked out. The king is like, within like a minute, he is back to normal. He is thriving. So the king is like, "What are we gonna do about these orcs, bro?" And Gandalf's like, "Well, I think you're gonna have to evacuate your village, but go to the fortress that you guys usually go to prepare for a war." And so that's what they do. They go to this place called Helm's Deep, where they fight off the orcs, and the elves actually save them because the elves are on their side again. There's still an army to fight, because you remember when Merry and Pippin went into that forest? They found this talking and walking tree. His name is Treebeard, and they convinced him to convince the rest of the Ents to take a part in this war, to rise up against these orcs, because we need to destroy that ring. The Ents actually take over Sauron's home base, which is called Isengard, and they just like flood it because Isengard was cutting down the trees, and the Ents were like, "Excuse me." But Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli find Merry and Pippin at Isengard, and now they are back together, sis. They are having a great time. So you remember Boromir? Boromir had a younger brother, and their dad hates the younger brother, and it's really sad because he's a nice guy. His name is Faramir. Well, Faramir actually ends up finding Frodo and Sam, and he captures them because he's like, "What in the world are two hobbits doing around in these parts?" Because right now, the hobbits are all the way down here, and this is like his area. He's like, "What are you doing in my swamp?" Frodo has to tell him that, "Yo, I'm like carrying this ring and I need help to get to Mordor because it's really hard." And so Faramir is like, "Well, why are you trusting this freak show?" Faramir is eventually convinced that he has to let them go because there's no way that they can settle this war without this ring getting into the volcano. Meanwhile, Gandalf and the gang are going from Rohan down to Gondor to Minas Tirith to meet with the acting king. He's not the real king. Aragorn's the real king, bro. By the way, there's another lady in love with Aragorn by this part. Her name is Eowyn. That's Eowyn. She is kind of badass, but we don't really know that yet. And she begs them to bring Merry with them because she knows that he has every right to fight in this war as much as she does, and she's gonna fight for all the people below her and for the people with her. We love a feminist. They get to Minas Tirith. The guy in charge is an idiot. Faramir gets hurt. The guy in charge tries to kill Faramir, even though he's still alive. He tries to burn Faramir alive. Gandalf's like, "Absolutely not, sir. You cannot do that." And so he pushes the guy in charge. I can't remember his name. I think it's Theoden. Anyway, he knocks him into the fire and then pulls Faramir out because Faramir doesn't deserve to die. Anyway, Faramir, nursed back to health. We are ready to go to war. Frodo and Sam go up this gigantic cliff. Minas Morgul, that's where they are. Up in the cliff. Gollum somehow convinces Frodo that Sam wants to take the ring for himself. "Sam, my boy, is the greatest friend anyone could ever have. So Sam is still on the cliffs. Gollum and Frodo are on top of the cliffs, and Gollum leads him to a spider? It's not Aragog. Shelob. She poisons Frodo, but not before he knocks Gollum off a cliff into the abyss. Sam finds Frodo all like paralyzed and like up in her webs, and he thinks that Frodo is dead. I think they might be goblins. I can never tell the difference. I think they're orcs though. They come along and Sam has to hide. So they find Frodo and they take him to their little castle inside of Mordor. So Sam has to sneak into this castle to find Frodo and rescue him. He puts on orc armor and he goes and rescues Frodo. They just have to watch out for Sauron's eye. Have to avoid that guy's gaze because otherwise Sauron will know that they're there and he will send all the orcs. And so they have to basically disguise themselves as orcs and then make their way to Mount Doom. Meanwhile, those 9 kings end up going to Minas Tirith, leading a giant army of orcs. Oh my goodness. Plus, this guy called the Witch King, right? He's just beating up the humans left, right, and center. It's terrible. But then he gets to this one soldier. And that soldier is like, I'm going to kill you, dude. And he's like, fool, no man could ever kill me. Stab. She rips off her helmet. It's Eowyn! She's disguised as a soldier. No man can kill him, but a woman sure can. Eventually, they win the war. Are you kidding me? Yeah! Frodo and Sam make it to the volcano. They are just about to throw that ring in, and Sam is going, Frodo, you gotta throw the ring in. And Frodo's like, I don't want to, Sam. What? You've been all this way, Frodo. You've been this entire way. You went from here all the way down to here, and you're not gonna throw the ring in? Are you kidding me? Gollum shows up in the volcano. He wasn't dead. He was just a little unconscious for a bit. Frodo tries to put the ring on to become invisible so that he can win the fight. Gollum bites his finger off, and now Frodo's bleeding everywhere. They wrestle a little bit more. Gollum falls. He falls into the mountain with the ring in his hand. We think that Frodo is dead, but he's hanging from the cliff by one hand. Sam grabs him. Sam saves him. They run out of that volcano because it is about to blow. They jump onto this rock. They saved Middle Earth. They saved it. These eagles come. They pick Frodo and Sam up. They are saved. The world is good again. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I love talking about Lord of the Rings. It's my favorite thing to do in the entire world. And I hope you had a good time. I'm sorry if this was boring to you. Next week I'll probably do makeup, so. I love every second of it, but I understand why other people don't. I have music out. If you would like to listen to it, it is my single, I Am the Ocean. It is available on Spotify, Apple Music, everything else. It's available on everything. I'm gonna post new videos every week on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. I post pretty consistently on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so you can follow me on those. Have a great weekend.